Hello everyone, I'm Martti from Willebrand, I'm from Double Open. Oh, sorry, I'm supposed to stand here, I guess. Yeah. I'm from Double Open. I'm here to discuss how the OCCTET project takes the OSS review toolkit ecosystem and builds that further to make it like very easy for SMEs to comply. And also, in a way, you could see it as a continuous development effort for the OSS review toolkit. I'm from Double Open. My background is a lawyer. My co-founder, Sébastien Schubert at Double Open, he has, in a way, the technical background. And really, our focus in Double Open is to focus on these tools, this ORG ecosystem, and make that easy. So the OCCTET project is quite natural for us to, in a way, bootstrap our startup. And basically, what I'm now going to show you is how the OS review toolkit with ORG server, how that integrates into different types of services, what it looks like, and what you can expect out of it. So here is some of the integrations. Many of them are OS review toolkit integrations existing. Many package management systems can be analyzed, so it works so that you point OS review toolkit with the ORG server, for example, you point it to your source code repository, and then you start the analysis process out of that. In that, you will have then a number of different views where you can review the results of whatever you've analyzed. You've generated first an SBOM, you've run it through source code scanning, you've run it through advising where you get vulnerability information, for example, from 3 sources. And then you had this reporting structure around the UI. In the UI, there is like views that you can use like on a very specific repository level, software asset, very specific there, or then you can look at a product level, or even also on organization level. So you also have a number of dashboards to help you understand where does your, in a way, scans go, how well they are automated, how they perform, how long they take. And also you can inspect and go into package metadata. You can see the whole transitive dependency tree, how in a way how the dependency tree is formed of, and then you can dive into any particular dependency, inspect it on a in a way what we call the Double Open server UI. You can then also fix license findings there, or just inspect them also. And I think it's yeah, that's your slide. So I'll let Philippe to continue. Thank you.
Actually, weirdly enough, is it possible to do a reload there? Maybe no. Just briefly, if you don't mind. Sinon, je veux bien les notes, juste reloader parce que j'ai rajouté 2 slides. Ah. Voilà. Oh, c'est pas grave, reprends. Elles sont pas là, ces slides, no worries. Ça n'a aucune importance. Ah bon? Reprends. All right. So, Philippe Ombredanne from the AboutCode project. It's great to talk about processes like we did, and also about tools, but tools without good data, they're mostly harmless. I was about to say useless, but that's not nice. They're not useless entirely, but we need good data. And it's surprisingly difficult to ensure we have decent information about origin, license, dependencies, known security issues, vulnerabilities, and how you will be able to figure out whether a vulnerability is really exploitable or reachable in your context, how to fix that. All that is surprisingly difficult. There's also things beyond it which are interesting, which is a couple weeks, maybe a month plus ago, there was a lot of hoopla around compromise of second factor authentication of a JavaScript developer, which had a few billion downloads a month. So small packages, very large reach. The question on Project Health is there a way we could evolve to understand if a project is a potential supply chain risk? So in any case, the whole point is that we need all of them. And if you squint a bit on something we should be all very familiar with, open source licenses, like the MIT license, super well known. This is an MIT license, except that if you squint a bit and read the first 4 words, this is not an MIT license. It's basically somebody that took an MIT text and inserted the word not. It's 3 letters. The problem we have at scale is that kind of problem. Maybe it's a prank, maybe it's not. But this is the kind of thing that puts a big monkey wrench in any kind of supply chain, because we're talking now about proprietary software. And any kind of responsible open source project or user and consumer of open source project at any scale will be having troubles with that, irrespective of your licensing stance. Now, we should review all the packages, but we should not redo all the work. Eventually, the ambition we have with AboutCode and in the context of OCCTET is that we should not ever rescan twice or revet twice the same open source package. It's just pure wasted of time, resource, and energy. It takes a lot of compute and electricity eventually to have decent information. It just ruins the planet. We already have AI to take care of that, so we don't need more of it. How does this translate in practice? We have a database which is very simply addressed and keyed by Perl. I'll come back on the standards presentation a bit later on what a package URL is, but very simply think about the name and version of a package. And eventually you say it's an NPM or it's a Maven or PyPI package. There's no more to it than that. Here we are building a database which is simply based on files, JSON or YAML files. Here it's a list of package URL from Maven, log4j, core. Very simply, it's YAML file, one thing, one Perl per line, nothing super fancy. Or if you were to dive in vulnerabilities, also keyed with a path, which I don't show fully, which you can infer entirely from a package URL, being able to immediately access what are the known security issues for that package and that package versions that are affected by a vulnerability, which vulnerability it is. So that's the essence of that. In terms of architecture, what it looks like is at the bottom you have a tool which is great to manage versioned text data. That's called Git. And we don't have one Git repository, but many Git repositories, so we can balance the number of files and the volume of files in each of these Git repos, so they're effectively usable and easy to check out. Otherwise, you cannot have. You could technically have a 300 gigabyte Git repository. For instance, Microsoft Windows is an example of such a repository, but it's not for the rest of us. So many focus Git repository which are focused on two dimensions. One is the package type. So for instance, Maven, Ruby, Perl, Raku, Erlang, which is basically an ecosystem. And the second aspect is what type of data. The list of known package versions, vulnerabilities, scans, open security scorecard would be example of this data. Then on top of that, the ability to aggregate this textual data, which is basically static reference data, in a whole that makes sense in database, which can be replicated in many different locations. And being able to make use of this data operationally. So with this scheme, you have a way to do efficient synchronization of textual data at the root, at the bottom, which Git is great for that. I mean, it's been designed to do efficient, decentralized exchange of content. Actually, Linus, when he created Git, said it's a content management system more than a version control system. And then still at the top, being able to aggregate that data selectively in operational data stores based on Postgres as a default, but it can be based on really any database. Now, eventually, we want to store and share pre-computed, pre-reviewed SBOMs in this context. And that would be easily to synchronize and reuse everywhere, eventually offline, on-premise. The problem we still have at the moment is that SBOM are not really there. And I love SBOMs. I was the co-founder of SPDX. I'm also quite involved with the core Cyclone DX team. And I have a small standard package URL, which is used in both. But still, they're not really there in terms of the quality we have. It's not so much the format. The format is as interesting as the piece of paper on which things are written. The problem is having accurate list and inventory of package for a given tool, software application that you're trying to inventory there. Still lots of work to do. There's been various reports. The one on 2024 is something I was involved with. The other one, more recent, is from CMU. They all come to the same conclusion that there's really a problem on the tooling side. And eventually, so what's really important is that we can, when we review and curate package information, we can do it one package at a time. There's about 80 million versions of NPM package, JavaScript package on NPM, about 4 million-ish on Maven Central. So one at a time is something that will take forever. What we're trying to do is trying to work upstream as much as possible. So I'm one of the co-founders of this project called ClearDefine, and we're working to eventually unlock the data so they can be more widely available. But it's essentially a repository of 50+ million scan code scans. I'm working also with Software Heritage to scan and automatically create. We won't be able to do that by hand. About 30 billion source code files. So we have eventually accurate license information and origin information for all these files. And a few other projects. One we're doing with the Rust team called T-Rust, which is to find any copied reuse code in Rust across different Rust projects, or C code that's been vendored in Rust crate, to make sure that we have faithful metadata in a cargo.toml file that represent correctly what's affected in the code. At the bottom, we hear a lot talking about log4shell, log4j, and how there were a bunch of poor guys maintaining that and an ungrateful thing. I don't know, many of us have been trying to do something about it. So we've started a small project called Maven Heaven, and we're working with the log4j maintainers to eventually find lingering log4shell vulnerabilities in jars that still exist in Maven Central. They're not detected by any scanner, to make sure that this can be fixed. And I cannot stress how important it is not to just say, hey, log4shell, this is a problem, but whenever we see this problem, we need to act and have the courage to also help this project, help fix them. And literally in this case, with the help of the European Union, actually also provide cash infusion to help the maintainers directly. That was it on the part for federated data and data in Octet.
My name is Andreea, and I'm from Expertware. As Sébastien mentioned, we are a company based from Romania, and we are proud to be part of this project as well. I know that my colleagues already started with the toolkit, but I think the question before the toolkit is, do I need it? Do I have to use it? And I know that it's been talked a lot about CRA, what it is, and so on, and we know that, again, it's the cornerstone regulation designed to make digital products secure by design and by default. So basically, we know that in a way that every unpackaged product and every week update process will no longer be just like a technical risk inside a small company, but will become a compliance violation. As well, we know that CRA applies to different manufacturers, importers, but also we know that there are also some exceptions, like medical devices, motor vehicles, and so on. We know that it will go in full force in 2027, but we still have a bit of time. As yesterday, some people mentioned that well, either we are late or either we still have time. I think we still have time if we just use it correctly and provide like tooling, like what we want to do with OCCTET, to the people that really wants and who wants to use it. We also know that based on the CRA, there's a few areas that a lot of people will have to look into it, like especially making sure that they implement continuous monitoring, so tracking threats, vulnerability throughout the product lifecycle, establish a vulnerability management process with clear channels to receive and address all the reports. And most important part, and I think, is the reporting exploits of the vulnerability that now we will have to report within the 24 hours to authorities and to the user that uses them. And again, we know the fines are not nice, and we want to not go or even reach that point. So with this in mind, and with the help of the EU and this project, we created like the first part of it, like the self-assessment platform. Basically, because it's also like a new co-funded project, it's free to help all SMEs determine if indeed they should be under CRA or not. And the other main point why we created it is that, again, legislation is really extremely detailed and time-consuming, like we all know and seen. It has like over 100 pages, and not to mention all the annexes that have like full technical and full legal requirements that make it really hard for a lot of SMEs like to follow if they don't have like the proper people inside the company. And some companies, of course, they don't have like the budget to pay another person just coming in and helping them with that. So projects like this, and with the help with the EU, I think we can do a lot. This application, for just in short, it helps understand mainly the role, whether you are a manufacturer, an importer, a distributor, and what steps you must take afterwards. Also, it filters out the non-applicable cases, like, for example, products that already are covered by other EU sectorial legislation or open source tools that are not placed on the market at the moment. But again, in the future, if you want to use it, you can redo the test and so on. So here in this slide, we want to show exactly in a way how the application and the self-assessment is divided. So we wanted to make the entire process a little bit intuitive. So we divided in 3 clear questionnaires. The first one being, okay, is it applicable to me? Does CRA apply to me? From here, you just have like a simple questionnaire then that will determine if indeed your product is in scope or not. If it's in scope, then you will move forward to the other one. If not, the system will explain why, and the self-assessment will end for you. But if indeed it's in a scope, then you will move to the second questionnaire, the classification and conformity route, where this part is derived from the CRA article 47 and Annex 3 and 4. And you will go through all the questions, and we try to make the question as easier to everybody to understand. Also, we have and my colleague will show you, we have a small AI integrated that will help you and guide you. And if you have any question, you don't understand something, you will have your help within this app. So with the second questionnaire, you will determine again if your products will be a default one, an important class 1, 2, or critical, and what to do after that. Self-assessment, or I have to get a certification or notify anybody assessment that we have to do. And after that, and understanding where the product class is, and the third questionnaire focused on readiness. It's mainly seeing where you stand at the moment, and this questionnaire I think is really important, because you have to be true. You don't have okay, yes, I do this, I do this, I do this. No. Try to be as concise. Oh, maybe I have it, maybe I don't have it. So at least you get at the end of all the 3 questionnaires a scoring to see exactly where you are. So you have to go over through all 3, especially this is the second one and the third one, and you will get a visual readiness score that is across 3 of your key areas, like security by design, vulnerability handling, updates, and transparency. And mainly here, we didn't want to make okay, this is not a certificate that you get or a score for the audit, but it's mainly to give you in a way a clearer picture of where you are with CRA readiness level, where are the lower points, and I will have to improve on them. And with this, going really fast, because I know that we are a little bit late on the schedule, I will leave my colleague Iulisa just to show you a little bit how the application looks. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I am Iulisa. I'm a software developer at Expertware. I designed and developed the application for self-assessment. The application is easy to use. The first step to have access to the application is register. You need to provide some basic public details about your company, like name, VAT, country, company size, and company sector. If you don't sure which sector your organization belongs to, we have a page with more details about this. You need to select the country where you sell. If you don't sell in the European Union, you are automatically excluded from CRA compliance. In the last part, you need to add a contact email. This person will receive an access code and another information from the application. To finish the registration, you need to follow steps from email, and after the registration is successful, you will receive an access code. This access code is unique and only one per company. After entering this code, you can start your journey in CRA regulation. Here we have OCCTET. This is an AI agent. It's created to help organizations with more information about CRA compliance. OCCTET was training using official CRA documentation, so can provide the accurate and useful answer. OCCTET is available anytime during the survey. You can ask for help whenever you need. Here we have a short documentation about CRA. These documentations give a quick introduction to CRA and explain the steps needed to stay compliant. The platform have 3 surveys. It's recommended to make in order. The first survey is awareness. The interface is simple and intuitive. Question may have a single choice answer or allow free input text. If your company falls under the CRA regulation, you need to make the next survey, self-qualification questionnaire. This helps you assess the importance and critical of your products. Throughout each survey, OCCTET can help you understand which answer best fit your organization. You can also ask OCCTET for explanation or for more example if something is unclear. Yeah, OCCTET have a lot to say. At the end of this survey, the system provides you a ranking. This ranking can be default products, important products, class 1 or 2, and critical products. Once you have identified your company's class or category, you can explore more about CRA and assess your organization's maturity score in the last survey. This survey, it may be a little details. Okay. 1 second. We have okay. This is the last survey. It may be a bit detailed, but this is information is essential for understanding the regulation and then determining where your company stands in the term of the compliance. Also, we have OCCTET and here. OCCTET is genius, CRA genius. Okay. At the end of this survey, you can see an overview per category showing a graph. You can clearly see your strong and weak areas. And the system keeps a history of your results, so you can see your progress and your evolution over time. You can redo any survey anytime if you want. If you have any concerns or question, you can check the frequently asked questions section on homepage. This is also a video that explains how the platform works. For any other question, you can use the contact form to ask for help directly from our team. And that's it. If you want to find our platform, you can scan the QR code or also access the link cra.octet.eu. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to discuss a bit briefly about standards. We discussed process, tools, surveys, a bit about data, but good data is mostly harmless too without decent standards. And specifically, it's about being able to talk the same thing in different contexts. If I share an inventory of the package I use in my product with you, you should be able to understand that. So it's having a common vocabulary, common language, common identifiers. And here, there's really 2 things of interest. One, which is package URL, and I'm your tormentor there. It came about as a way to exchange information between the package we were detecting in scan code and being able to look up in vulnerability database, which is the main use case today, which is not a perfect identifier. but it's probably the least worst out there. It's been adopted progressively a bit everywhere, including more recently in the CV schema at MITRE. For license, there's another awesome thing called SPDX license expressions, which enables to have a compact, clear way to express license without having to carry too much boilerplate. And then there's SBOM and VEX. We already discussed it briefly earlier today. You will have to deal both with SPDX and CycloneDX. There's no way out because there's adoption in both cases, and your constituent, whether folks, group, companies, organization, project providing SBOMs, and the ones demanding you to provide SBOM will sometimes provide one format, sometimes the other. It's going to be a jolly mess because the semantics of the two are not exactly aligning quite well. On the other front, which is VEX, or vulnerability exploitability, which is a bit more emerging, or vulnerability disclosures, we have CSAF, which has been heavily supported in the EU by the German BSI, but not only, which stands for Common Security Advisory Framework. I know Red Hat has been quite involved also with definition of the standard. It's, by the way, CycloneDX is an ECMA standard, so is about to be Perl pretty soon. CSAF is an ISO standard, so is SPDX, though I understand from recent discussion at ECMA with the TC54, which is the technical committee responsible for the standardization of Perl and CycloneDX and a few other related standards, that there's maybe a path to fast-tracking both CycloneDX and Perl to become an ISO standard sometimes next year. So everybody will be using ISO standards. It's wonderful. Like that, we'll have plenty of standards to choose from, which is, of course, when you implement the tools to support them all, is a bit more of a challenge, but that's part of the game of standards, I'm pretty sure. So few words about Perl. It's eventually came about to be a de facto standard, which is now officially becoming a standard, to resolve the simple problem is I scan or I detect a package. Is there non-security issues? And when we started, it was surprisingly difficult. You had this stuff called the National Vulnerability Database, which no longer exists. The federal government in the US has been defunded. They're probably stopping all that stuff. No, not exactly, but almost disappearing. It was really difficult to go, I scan a package, is there non-security issues? You had to do it entirely by hand. It was a painful search process. And it just happened that it clicked with a lot of folks because they had the same issue. And it's basically simply, if you see the example Perls there, you say, here's the code for an ecosystem, say Perl, the language, Haku, the language, Erlang, Python for PyPI, and so on. Here's the name at the version. There's no more to it than that. In some case, you have a namespace. Say for Debian package, you may have Ubuntu and Debian. For RPM, you may have Red Hat and SUSE and so on. But the gist of it is very intuitive, and there's very little difference between what you deal with when you deal with software package as a software developer and what you would translate that in a Perl. So the goal there is to share better inventories, which are eventually more accurate. And in a way, having a decent Perl is a way to convert mostly losslessly the core of an SBOM from one format to another. It's a way to abstract yourself from the format. Same thing with vulnerability disclosures. If you have a vulnerability disclosure report in CycloneDX format, an advisory in CSAF, or an OpenVex statement, they all use Perl. If they use the same Perl, in the end, the format matters less because we're talking the same identifiers. Some of the projects, in terms of data that use Perl, You have clearly defined in AboutCode two of the projects I'm closely involved with, but also devs.dev at Google, Ecosystem from Andrew Nesbitt, OSV, and Sonatype, OSS Index, which is a semi-private, semi-open database, at least free to access vulnerability database, is using also package URL there. And what we do in OCCTET is a couple of things. First, we made a decision as part of the work package 3, which builds the tools to exchange data using standards. It's a bit painful at times because SBOMs, even though they're designed to exchange data between tools, it's one thing to have a theoretical framework, and it's one thing to work with it in practice. So we're going through a bit of growing pains, but the point is it's important because it enables more modularity between tools, forcing ourselves to use standards for this exchange, keyed by Perl, and we discussed about the data earlier on in federated code, where we put this data in a way that's easy to mirror and synchronize in many Git repositories and easy to reaggregate afterwards, also keyed by package URL, and eventually storing some of the data there, probably not all, but at least storing SBOMs as much as we can, that would be then easy to consume, easy to reference as a public digital command. And that's it. So questions? Q&A, you want to take the stand there?
We do have a roaming mic. We have about 10 minutes. Was there 2 questions? Or was there? No? We'll go to Dirk first.
Maybe a bit of a detailed question, but is there a way we can... So one of the issues we have, for example, like in Apache, and I think also a lot of other open source projects, that we often find our packages in the field under a different name. Like it's not the Apache HTTPD server, but it's Debian HTTPD or Ubuntu HTTPD, or basically, basically the Perl sort of like, there's sort of like multiple Perls pointing to exactly the same package, whereas in other cases actually the package itself has been modified. And actually it is important that the name is different. And what we often see as a result of that we either get a lot of false positive or false negatives out of the tools.
Yeah.
Is there something we can do to either sort of like get a Perl ++ or something, or some other solution?
There's no. I can talk to that briefly. There's no silver bullet there. Priyat Karwash, who is one of the lead maintainers of Log4j, is working specifically at the moment to experiment and building VEX reports using CycloneDX format to say, hey, this version of this package, which is as a vendor or used as a dependency in Log4j, has CV123, but it's not expressed if you use this package in Log4j. There's no other way than to go about it one at a time. Another example, which is probably a counter-example, the folks dealing with Python releases at the Python Software Foundation now include an SBOM with each and every version. This SBOM is in some case problematic. And for instance, it references pip, which is the Python package installer, which is bundled in the Python distribution, fine. Python itself embeds a bunch of other packages, or actually subset of these packages, which have been subtly patched and modified for using pip, which has been subtly modified and patched for using Python. And if you provide just a Perl for the upstream project, the vulnerability that may exist in the basic pip may not be the one that's expressed in the Python distribution. So it's an unsolved issue at the moment.
Right. So could we do something more of a social thing? So these SBOMs are a legal concept. They're not technology. Well, they're also a technology thing, but they also have now. They're also certainly like a legal concept. They'll get a delegated act and everything else. Could we solve basically as a community simply say like, well, if your name sort of like is prefixed in a Perl, you're responsible for it. So yes, if we do encounter let's say Debian, Ubuntu, Apache, then well, it's not Apache responsible for that package. Or could we something like basically socially solve this as a community, or we simply say like, if the pearls is yours, it's your package. If it has someone else's name in it, it's someone else's package.
Yeah, the difficulty is that the moment in the case of Python, the identifier hence the package URL is that of pip upstream, even though it's really no longer pip, it's pip inside the Python distribution. Slightly subtly patched, it may be subject exactly to the same vulnerable exploitable CVs or not. I just don't know, it's just the patch. It could be one extra instruction and that may be enough to change the context of exploitability or not. So, to your point, to me the only way to resolve somehow the issue here, it's probably just one at a time, meaning putting light on the problem, making sure the data is available to everyone in the open. And to your point, focusing, SBOM is not for me something that's legal, it's just an inventory. It happens to have a bit too much of a legal varnish on it, but it's really an inventory. So ensuring that we have the proper inventories and that we have open data that we can collectively review. It's always been a problem because nobody wanted to review the data, but with CRA we have to. We cannot at any scale of open source project, consumers, manufacturers being able to do anything serious when each project very quickly reuse 10,000 packages. That at any scale, there's no way any project is able to do that. And Linux distributors, even though they've had the practice also forever to do that, probably also will have similar problems.
I see two more hands. I think we do have time, so we'll get to both of these.
Thank you for the presentation of those different tools. And my question is, where can we download the source codes of those tools from?
Oh, it's not public. No, that was a joke.
So which of the source codes?
So there's actually multiple tools. Some of them are available at Double Open, some of them at AboutCode. But everything is available publicly on GitLab and GitHub.
So OS Review Toolkit is the core project. It's a Linux Foundation project available on GitHub. Ort Server is an actual Eclipse Foundation project available on GitHub. Some of the other, like Double Open Server, it's our project available on GitHub. I think that I don't know about and for the federated parts...
Everything is open. I mean, the only thing private for me is my GPG key and SSH keys.
We have one more question here.
So the general question is, everything's open. Do we have a place where we have a listing of all the place? Probably not. So that's a good call. On the website. On the website, it's there. So everything should be there on the website. If it's not, it's a bug. And you can file a bug and a pull request, and we'll fix it.
Very quickly, concretely, I want to check the system with the self-assessment. What is the record, the top record, that will indicate that I'm in the right tracks or not? Have you, it's 90%, is it a percentage?
It's a percentage, but you also get like a scoring, so you have like the map, and you will have all the scoring that will go like up until the 5, so that will be the highest score. But as mentioned, it's just a generic score just to see exactly where we are, like, and where are the points that you want to improve on. Like, when the vulnerability is something on your side.
Yeah, I understand.
And also inside of the application.
Assessment tool, I mean, to validate the, okay, yeah. I understand it better. Well, then I keep the other question for the bilaterals.
Thank you. We have about 1 more minute if somebody has a quick last question. Otherwise, we will thank the many panelists, the participants, for a fantastic presentation. And we have the same chocolates for these participants. And we will get ready for the next panel. So if we can give a round of applause to the panelists.
So, and if you want to participate in the OCCTET project, that's possible. We're keen to have more use cases for the project, so please reach out to us. If it's an open source project or a product, etc., we will be absolutely, it would be marvelous to have you in this journey, and that would help us a lot to evaluate the usefulness of our tooling. So be part of it. Go to the website, subscribe to the newsletter, or contact us by email, and it would be definitely perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And if you can bring your microphone, if you can just give your microphone. So just while we're doing the transition from this to the other panel, I'll mention that we do have feedback forms, and we were planning on giving everyone a chocolate if you fill in the feedback form. And I think Shanda is going around now, and Arena, and they're handing out the forms, and if you do fill that up, you get a Belgian chocolate.